Is the Weiner Wellness Week, and this is Friday, folks. Loaded schedule for you today, and kicking it off is none other than the Mac Haynes, Big Mac Daddy. I'll tell you what, one of the newest products we've had at the Weiner Wellness Center at the World of Wellness. I was saying Weiner Wellness Week. At World of Wellness, and of course through Nutritional Frontiers, one of the newer products that has had the most effect initially and ongoing is our new IgG powder, and the man responsible for that is Mac Haynes, and he's here to tell us about it and some new breaking news as well in the area of gut health, microbiome, vagus nerve, you name it. Mac, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks for that great introduction. You guys are too kind. I'm going to talk a little bit, and I have a PowerPoint ready for everyone, but
okay.
Let's see here. I'll go to my window and let me know. Can you guys see that on your end?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Perfect. I will start from the beginning, but yes, Nutritional Frontiers did a great job putting this amazing product together with a really clinically studied ingredient, Immunolin. It's been a prescription medical food since 2013, but with the FDA letting us lower the dose, it was a great time to work together with Nutritional Frontiers to launch one of the best gut health supplements you can buy in the market. So, of course, I'll tell you a little bit about myself, kind of my background. McLean Haynes, I'm brand manager over here for Terra Health, the manufacturer for Immunolin. I'm a formulator, and I'm a patient advocate. I love to speak, especially for Nutritional Frontiers, talk a little bit about their product. And help out their sales team over there. And I'm born and raised in Southwest Iowa. I'm an Iowa kid still, and that's where our plant is.
Just like Captain Kirk.
Yeah.
Isn't he from Southwest Iowa too? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I pursued my Bachelor of Science at Iowa State University. Kind of been a clone my entire life. The Cyclones, I support them. And spend time with my family, my friends, and I don't think I'd ever say this. I never thought in my lifetime I would, but we actually have a big test this week against the Kansas Jayhawks in football. Usually that's a basketball deal, but no, football this week is a big testament to see where the rest of the season is going to go for the Iowa State Clones.
Now, let me ask you something. Is Iowa State the team that uses the Pittsburgh Steelers uniform?
No, that's Iowa. That's the team out east.
Sorry.
We don't talk about them.
Okay, sorry. All right.
So who is Entera Health? Entera Health was actually founded in 2011, but our holding company has been around since the 1970s. Basically, we're just a privately held biotech company that focuses on the research and development of animal source plasma proteins for global human health, as well as nutrition applications. And we're not just in the human health and nutrition applications realm. Our sister companies have some plasma proteins that go into drugs like Remicade, as well as some cell blockers that goes in our COVID-19 tests. But to talk a little bit about our side of the business, we actually launched Interrogam, which is just Immunolin, this clinically studied ingredient at 5 grams. It's considered a prescription. So we launched that in 2013, mainly used for the clinical dietary management of IBSD, IBD, HIV enteropathy, but a lot of the gastroenterologists also use it for SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, because this is going to that underlying condition of that overgrowth of bacteria and getting it moved out of the system. Once we went to the FDA, we were able to launch Immunolin, the 1 to 2.5 gram dose of this product in 2018, and now we have over 45 formulations, and we're here to talk about one of the best in the market, IgG. So why should we care about gut health? Well, everything starts in the gut. As you can see here, 80% of the immune system is in your gut. There's also 90% of the serotonin production is in your gut, which is crazy to think about because when we think of serotonin, we think directly to the brain. But if you think 90% of the serotonin production is in your gut, if you have a healthy gut, you're going to have a healthy amount of serotonin. It's going to help with your cognitive function, happiness, all that good stuff. But as you can see there on the left, gut can be linked to anything from just digestion to beauty. An inflamed gut's not going to let you take in all those nutrients you need, all the water and the protein, your mental health and cognition, your immunity, as well as muscular growth and recovery. That one's kind of a great category because if you think about it, it's not about the amount of chicken and protein you can take in. It's about the amount you can absorb. And if you have an inflamed gut, you're just not going to absorb all the necessary nutrients to, act better, be stronger, all the great stuff that you have with muscular growth and recovery.
Well, yeah, that's that old saying, you are what you eat. It's not that anymore at all.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ancient. That's ancient information, folks. It's what you eat, absorb, and assimilate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have a great slide that I'll talk about later on from all of our clinical studies. We kind of gathered that data and talked about how you can increase protein utilization as well as lean body mass while taking this product. So what is going on in my gut? What's going to affect and cause me to have abdominal discomfort, abdominal pain, bloating, diarrhea, even flatulence? Well, as you can see from this slide, let's look at the difference between a healthy and inflamed gut. Over here on the left, as you can see, in that intestinal mucosal cells, those are basically the frontline fortress for any pathogens that are going to move through the GI tract and slip through and cause an inflammatory response. You want that gut lining to be contracted and healthy and have those tight junction proteins to make sure nothing is slipping through and, again, causing an inflammatory response in your gut. That's going to lead to that bloating, diarrhea, flatulence, and abdominal discomfort. Over there on the right, that's an inflamed gut. Basically, it's been on constant degradation. It's been just through the works, and now it's just a free flow of antigens, bad bacteria, bad fungal components slipping through, and your body just constantly is just sending out an inflammatory response to get rid of it. And that leads to your very bad symptoms you just don't want to live with.
Well, I think what people should realize on that the one on the right, the inflamed gut, is there's two things going on. Bad stuff's getting in, and nutrients are getting out. So
exactly.
You have a double-edged sword here. That's going to be it's just a perfect prescription for ill health.
Yep, absolutely. And here in this next slide, we're going to talk about kind of what that all looks like and how we can fix it. So, top left, you're looking at an altered gut microbiota. So those toxins, as you can see, they're going to slip through the gut lining, and those immune cells, when that happens, they say, "I got to get this out of my body, whatever this pathogen is." So it'll send out an inflammatory response, just charring up that gut lining, opening things up. And when you do that, it's letting other toxins in. You're just on a hamster wheel that you can't get off of low-grade inflammation. I like to look at it like it's a bonfire, and all those toxins, that's just throwing more wood on the fire. The fire will never go out if you keep tossing wood on it. And what you're going to have here with IgG is something that's going to go to the underlying condition. It's going to take that log, get it out of there, let that fire heal, and then obviously get all the inflammation out of the gut and let you live a healthier, happier life. How can IgG help? Here's the two products, great flavored, but how is it actually working to help my gut lining?
Right.
So IgG actually binds onto those microbial components that cause that inflammation in the gut and that deteriorates the gut in the long term. So again, it's doing one thing, but it's the downstream effects that helps you live a healthier, happier life. We're able to bind onto microbial components. And I'm going to talk about some of the most common ones that come up in gut health tests and that cause GI distress later in the slides. But obviously we know if we can bind onto the culprit of that, we're able to maintain our GI immune balance. That gut barrier will turn over new tissue when it's not constantly inflamed and under stress. And then it will contract back together, and you'll be able to improve your nutrient utilization, like we were talking about, taking in more water, protein, and nutrients that are essential.
Hey, Mac, now does this apply to both macro and micronutrients?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's about what you can take in and what you can absorb. And with a healthy gut lining, you're taking in more and absorbing more of both of those.
Right. Good.
Again, to look at kind of the mechanism of action, in the top circle there, everything in green, that's going to be anything from E. coli, lipopolysaccharide, Candida albicans, a bunch of different inflammatory markers that just get through that epithelial lining and cause an inflammatory response. Again, when you reduce the antigen uptake, what you're going to be able to do with this IgG source by binding onto them, neutralizing them, and removing them from the system before they can slip through that epithelial lining. IgG is great, just an antibody, but it's doing that one thing to help get everything out of the body. So when you do that, your immune cells will actually send out an anti-inflammatory response. As you can see there in the bottom right, and then that'll move back to the top. Tight junction proteins are going to be restored. You're going to improve that nutrient utilization in the long term.
And this is why we combine it with our GI Complete.
Absolutely.
You get rid of all of that and then help reinforce, revitalize the epithelial lining that you were discussing.
Absolutely. Just nurture that gut lining with GI Complete and get all the bad guys that would cause an issue out of the body. Those are like the perfect 1-2 punch you have there for products. So what does IgG bind to, though? Is it just like a couple different cell wall components? Well, what we know of right now is it binds onto about 44 to 45 different pathogens in the gut lining. I'll talk about our newest clinical trial we just conducted over some new strands, but as you can see here, these are some major inflammatory responses or inflammatory markers that cause an inflammatory response. LPS, lipopolysaccharide, makes up about 60% of the antigens throughout the GI tract. So you're already knocking out 60% of the problem by using IgG, by binding onto LPS, getting that out of the system. There's also C. difficile toxins A and B. I know C. diff is a very, very tough disease to fight and to treat. And what you have here is something that's going to work in that non-systemic space, specifically targeting toxins A and B and getting them out of the system. But as well as flagellin, zymosin, and whole bacteria, gliadin for our gluten-sensitive patients. We know when that gluten's broken down, the antigen gliadin is created. So this is a great therapy you can use to actually bind onto that microbial component, neutralize and remove that from the system. E. coli is a big one. H. pylori, Candida albicans. We know Candida albicans, that's not just in our gut microbiome. That's in other microbiomes that cause problems and issues. And now you have a targeted approach to specifically bind onto that antigen and get it out of the system.
Now, all of these things are complicated and made worse, obviously, by the overuse of antibiotics, right?
Absolutely. Antibiotics, they kind of can be beneficial. They're going to go after some of these antigens, but they also take out the good bacteria in there that's kind of helping maintain a healthy immune system. So what we have here is a more targeted approach. Instead of taking out the good and the bad, let's just take out the bad and then let that gut just, heal itself over the long term and have a healthy ecosystem in there for your gut.
And then, of course, it really breaks it down. That's awesome. I like that.
And we have a great clinical trial that you can reach out to, obviously, your sales representatives and get. But SBI or IgG also doesn't adversely affect the intestinal bacteria or common probiotics. So we even know from our data to make sure that we're not messing with any of the good bacteria, any of the pre or the post that's in there. We're just targeting that harmful antigen and removing it from the system.
And SBI, so that everybody knows, stands for soil or spore?
Serum bovine-derived immunoglobulin protein isolate. Okay. Big old word.
Yep.
So let's talk about some research and clinical experience behind this ingredient, just so we can't be making these false claims out there. This ingredient is one of the most extensively studied ingredient in the market. You're looking at something that was previously only available by prescription. And by lowering the dose, you're still getting the same exact effect at that prescription amount. It's got over 45 published clinical manuscripts. Those are human clinical trials. 6 placebo over IBS-D, digestibility, some pediatric IBS, HIV enteropathy, as well as some open label pilot studies, but they're all microbiome focused. And a lot of these clinical trials, again, are looking at IBS, SIBO, celiac, IBD, many more different GI distress and diseases that you can get from your sales representative if you'd like to look into those studies yourself.
Sure. Well, this pediatric IBS, there's a specific type of IBS just for kids?
Yep. And we're just trying to make sure that obviously IBS isn't just one symptom. It's not just straight diarrhea.
Right.
There's a handful of symptoms from constipation, bloating, just lack of taking in nutrients. And we wanted to look at, even at a young age, for this pediatric population, this can be a great ingredient for them to get over their issues as well.
Okay.
So here is our latest clinical trial we did. So this IgG source, again, like I said, it's just an antibody that binds onto the bad stuff, neutralizes them, and removes them from the body. But we don't know exactly everything it binds onto. As you can see, everything that I went through earlier for that it binds to, that's just stuff that we know of, but we wanted to look deeper into it. So we just conducted another clinical trial looking at 4 other toxins and had success binding onto them, which was great. The immunoglobulin, again, it only bound to about 40, but now we're able to make the claim for 44. And this was an ELISA test. That is basically an at-home test that we do in our lab. And we put the antigen down. We run SBI, or in this case, IgG, through the system. And if it binds onto it, we know we had success binding. And this is something that you can benefit from using for your GI tract to bind onto Candida albicans lysate and ALS3 protein, H. pylori, cytolethal distending toxin subunits A and C, as well as Shiga-like toxin 1 subunit. And this is the latest trial. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me ask you something, Matt.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is, in your area or not, but the ELISA test is also what's used for Lyme disease, correct? And
yeah,
and I wonder, have you guys done anything with IgG and Lyme?
So we have not directly done any specific trials for Lyme, but we know it can be beneficial. We do have gastrologists that have been using it for that Lyme disease population. But for like clinical trials that we currently have, that's something that down the road we'd love to obviously get set up and look deeper into, because we know the therapy works in that area for those patients.
Good.
And then our past antigen binding data, this is the one we did. It's our Horgan piece. And it just showcased, we looked at a ton of different microbial pathogens, and we were able to identify 40 microbial pathogens that this IgG source directly targets, binds, and removes from the system. It's something that we presented at the Experimental Biology Conference in San Diego, California, but I don't know if you guys can see there at the bottom left, but it's just everything I talked about earlier, just showcasing the success to bind and removal of all these antigens from the gut barrier.
That's very impressive. Wow, 40 microbial pathogens. Unbelievable.
And then obviously all those, that binding data is great, but we wanted to look at exactly leaky gut, which we know is one of the hottest kind of symptoms right now for gut distress. We know that immunolin reduces the incidence of that dietary endotoxemia or leaky gut by specifically binding on those antigens. And this is a trial we did at University of North Texas. We're actually in phase 2 with more patients in our phase 2 trial, and we'll be releasing that in the coming months for you guys that you can use this data. But again, it doesn't matter. We're looking at from 1 gram to 2.5 grams to 5 grams to 500 milligrams. This antibody works, it runs to the GI tract, and it's binding onto those inflammatory pathogens.
That's powerful information.
So how do we know the antigens are removed from the system?
You feel better. No.
Exactly. We wanted to make sure to have some proven data that this isn't just working in your stomach. It's working through the small intestine, the large intestine, all the way down to the colon. That's why it can be beneficial for even your IBD patients. So we did a clinical trial to make sure that we can prove that this immunoglobulin survives through the entire GI tract and works throughout there. And obviously we had some great success in this clinical trial. We actually found bound antigens, those antigens causing the inflammation, in the patient's stools from this trial. And again, it's designed this way. This is just a really clean protein, but the IgG source is so concentrated, and it's designed that way so that it'll survive the entire GI tract. And then again, I was talking about this a little bit earlier, but nutritional uptake and utilization after healing the gut. So this is the one we were talking about. It's not about the amount of protein that you take in, it's about the amount you can absorb. And we know from all these different studies on HIV-associated enteropathy, short bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, idiopathic diarrhea, antibiotic-induced diarrhea, all these different studies, that in 75 of them, lean body mass for those patients, 34% increased. Their food intake increased 23%, and their protein utilization increased 9%.
Matt, can you explain what short bowel syndrome is?
Yep. Short bowel syndrome can be anything from when there's actually surgery in there on the top end, where they could maybe had to cut out a piece where there was too inflamed, and that part of the lining was just deteriorated enough that they had to remove it and put it back together. So that's just to talk a little bit about short bowel syndrome and how this doesn't work outside of the GI tract. It's non-systemic, and it's going to give that area a quicker and better chance to heal since it's not on constant degradation from those inflammatory pathogens.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's a powerful slide there. I mean, the
Yes,
amount of people,
absolutely.
you know, I got to tell you, I mean, I still see lots of people suffering with Crohn's and irritable bowel and ulcerative colitis. I mean, they love the names because they have it and they can identify with it and get their drugs or whatever. But there's still people suffering daily from these things that if
Absolutely.
they only knew about this, if they only knew that there is a way to help this that's not about surgery or drugs. And that's why we're doing this. That's why we're doing this. We're doing this to get the word out there. Okay, and this presentation, folks, it's going to be on our website. It'll be on the World of Wellness Facebook and YouTube channel. If you know anybody, if you're watching this and you know anybody suffering from any of these conditions, make them watch this presentation. Sorry,
absolutely.
Go ahead,
Don't just mask the symptoms. Go to the underlying cause of that distress. Get that little antigen out of the body. So here's some more kind of data that we have on this IgG concentrate. As you can see, like I said, there's over 40 human clinical trials on it. Anything from irritable bowel syndrome with diarrhea, infectious enteropathy, but you're looking at celiac, non-celiac gluten sensitivity, which is a huge problem, IBD, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis. We just kind of want to look at all these different microbiome-focused gut diseases and how this IgG source can help. And reach out to your sales support representative. He's going to be able to, and she's going to be able to find all these clinical trials and send them over to you. And if anyone has any questions, I'll have my email and my phone number at the end of this. If you want to look at the mechanism of action, if that's going to be beneficial for you to help better explain why IgG is going to be better therapy for your patient. And then ongoing trials. We actually have a clinical trial we did over in Barcelona, Spain, looking at bovine immunoglobulin and the potential inhibiting of the AC2 COVID-19 spike protein. If this IgG source, and we know long haul COVID, there's many different GI distress symptoms that come along with it. If this can be beneficial in helping reducing that stress and that bloating and that diarrhea and abdominal discomfort, we definitely want to showcase that with a trial. So definitely something we'll be presenting. I think we're planning on presenting that in Q1 of next year, but some more great data for you guys.
That is very good.
And that second bulletin point, that's that University of North Texas study I was talking about. That's going to be over looking at how we can reduce the leaky gut for those patients. We're in that second phase. And then that unique binding study is the one I talked about earlier.
So, these are clinical, scientifically supported studies, folks. This is not just somebody's opinion. They're actually scientific and supported. Anthony, how are you, buddy?
Perfect. So let's go ahead and get to it. The top 5 reasons why everyone should take IgG by Nutritional Frontiers. First off, I'm not going to go off the 1 through 5 here. This product tastes amazing, guys. They did an amazing job formulating this product and getting the flavor right. The lemon, lime, and raspberry, they're both great. You just put it in your water, mix it, shake it, take it. You're on your way. So let's talk about. It
dissolves so quickly and so easily. Yeah,
great product.
And those 2 flavors were chosen specifically to go along with the 2 flavors of GI Complete. So it wasn't a random choice. We did that so that if you like the lemon lime GI Complete, you have the lemon lime IgG. Same with the raspberry. So that's why they were chosen.
And no contraindication. What other medication you're taking, what other different supplements you're taking, there's no contraindication with the 2. So they both work differently. We're just giving the gut a chance to be able to absorb those other nutrients that you're taking.
Right.
But it's safe. Again, it has GRAS status, generally recognized as safe by the FDA. And there's no major adverse events with this product. So very, very clinically studied and very safe product. And it works differently. Like I said, this is targeting the underlying cause of that dysbiosis in the gut. Why just mask the symptoms? Why just walk around with a rock in your shoe and not take the rock out? Why would you keep taking ibuprofen to get the rock out? You just take off your shoe and get the rock out of there.
Hey, Mac, let me ask you this. On a lot of these studies, these 45 clinical trials, did they do any type of complementary lifestyle, diet changes or recommendations, or did people just do their normal daily life and do the formulation and the product?
That's a great question. So a lot of those clinical trials were on obviously patients that had the Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, or IBS-D. Right. So they were just on years of constant inflammation. And that is just being able to relieve those symptoms in a 6-week period. And a lot of those clinical trials was very beneficial for them. So those were the worst of the worst. So we know if we can treat the worst of the worst, what about your everyday traveler or your everyday at home, someone that runs into an antigen or something that causes them that distress? Their turnaround time with using this product is going to be even quicker. So again,
and then if we were to add an anti-inflammatory diet to the picture,
right?
A clean diet, it's going to speed it all up.
Okay, absolutely.
Perfect.
You can almost look at this product as FODMAP. It's looking in there and finding what the problem is to get it out of the system. It's kind of the first step in the FODMAP. It's taking out whatever that antigen was.
Okay.
It's backed by real science. Like I said, over 40 human clinical trials that your sales reps will be able to obviously share with you. It's easy to use. Mix it, shake it, take it. Like you said, it dissolves real quick, and just take it down the system. We recommend you can take this product around lunch or dinner time, just because that's when we're eating with our hands and come in contact with the most microbial components. But I take this in the morning every day. It doesn't matter when you take it, but if you're one to specifically target, lunch and dinner time would be a great time to take your IgG, especially on the side because it tastes great. And anyone can take it, ages 2+ for anyone, but we do have pediatric data that showcases even at a very, very young age, this is a very beneficial product. But for anyone that wants to improve their digestive health, their immune support, and their overall wellness, IgG is one of the best formulated gut health products you can use in the market.
Ages 2 and up. That's the magic number right there. And I would venture to say that that 2 and up is kind of the marker for most things.
Yep.
But it's probably good for just about anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, guys, healthy gut, happy life. I hope I can tell you a little bit more about Immunolin and why this is one of the most targeted therapies you can use to manage that gut barrier and get your patients feeling better. They're going to take in more water, nutrients, let them get out there, let them get to their kids' soccer game and not have to be worried where the next toilet is at. Let them feel comfortable at the beach with maybe getting in their swimsuit because they're not loaded through the roof. This is going to go after those indicators and get them out of the system.
Great stuff. Well, Mac, it's always a pleasure. You're so well informed. The information that you bring to the table is scientifically sound and applicable across the board for everybody, and that's the beauty of it. So we thank you. You're welcome back every single Wellness Week, Mac. We'd love to have you here, buddy. Maybe someday you'll get out of Iowa and come to Pittsburgh and do it live.
Let me know when I need to get out there. I'd love to come see you guys.
Great. All right. Mac Haynes, everybody. Immunoglobulin, Immunolin is his patented research trademarked ingredient, and that's in the IgG from Nutritional Frontiers. So thanks again, Mac. All the best to the family. Stay safe, stay young, stay healthy. See you soon.
See you soon.
And we will be back, everybody, at 11 o'clock. So you got a little bit of break. You got 11 o'clock with Energy Response Technician Extraordinaire, Mr. Jeffrey Nisnik, our resident kinesiologist here at the World of Wellness. He'll be here at 11. Don't miss it. Helpful tips, and he's going to do a little demo. He always does. Maybe somebody will volunteer. But we'll see you then. Be back at 11 o'clock. Till then, keep an attitude of gratitude. Live long.